Hello, Constantina.
Good morning, Chief. It's always lovely to see you, and welcome
And
to
you.
the Careers Chat. And Chief, today we're super excited. I am excited. What about you?
I am too, because I've worked with this gentleman for 2 years, and he must dread my name popping up in his inbox because I'm usually asking for something.
I'm sure that's not the case if he's here with us today, and I'm delighted to introduce you to Dhruv Krishnaraj, who is the director and co-founder of Student Circus. So, Student Circus is a platform specifically designed for international students, but I'm sure Dhruv will give us a better intro, right?
Absolutely. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shiv. Thank you so much, Constantina. Shiv is absolutely correct. We've been working together for the last couple of years to support students at Warwick, and I'm delighted to be joining both of you wonderful ladies today to kind of spread the word and get some fun, interesting content out to student listeners that will listen to this podcast slash video wherever they are and whatever they're doing. So a quick introduction from myself. My name is Dhruv Khrisnaraj. I am the director and co founder at Student Circus. Student Circus is the UK's largest international student employability service provider, and we currently work with close to 90 universities across the country, including lovely Warwick. That includes all the different departments at Warwick, all different students at Warwick, and supporting all international students and alumni that finish up at the University of Warwick in their job search journey, both in the UK, in their home countries, and if they want to explore the wonderful world that we have in other countries as well. So that's a brief background for myself.
That's great. Thank you, Dhruv. And I know many students from WBS where I work use the service, and Siobhan also knows how many Warwick students use Student Circus. But can you tell us what prompted you the creation of this service?
So basically, it was my own journey of being an international student. So it's the quintessential story of someone, starting their own startup from their dorm room. And it literally happened. I kid you not. I'm not making this up. This is not for just the podcast that I'm saying this. It's true. So I was an international student at the University of Bristol. I came to do my master's in 2014. And basically, at 2014, there was no post study work visa, which meant the previous iteration of the post study work visa was kind of closed down in 2012. I came in 2014 when we all international students had 4 months between the end of their course and the end of their visa. So, in 4 months' time, we had to get the right job, switch your visa, or pack your bags and go back home. I was one of the lucky ones to kind of go through the whole process and basically get offered a position. But when they realized that, I was an international student, they were like, oops, visas not going to be happening, etc. So that frustration of going through the whole process, being the correct person, and yet not getting the job was kind of, caught up with me. And I said, there has to be a simpler solution. In my class of 105 students at that time, 102 were non UK, non EU international students, which is a huge bunch. I was staying in a student accommodation which was fully for postgraduate international students. So I said, look, there are so many students. Almost all of them are desperate for jobs. Yes, in different varying desperation, but everyone was desperate. And I said, why isn't there a service for international student job search? It was that simple answer was Student Circus now. So basically, it literally came up from my own problem and my co-founder's problem at Student Circus. She faced a similar problem in a different guise. So she was actually doing an internship with a startup in London, and she's a friend of mine at a different university. And basically, they wanted to keep her on, but the time it would take for them to get the license and sponsor her was more than the time she had on a student visa left. So she's like, "We're two peas in the same pod. Let's try and solve and change the world." And we said, "Let's try."
This is an
That's how it
amazing
started.
story.
Yeah.
This is absolutely amazing story. Thank you, Drew. And just recently, I worked with someone who was offered the job, but as you said, yes, but no. we don't want to employ on the graduate route visa. So
Exactly.
I can feel your frustration, and I know that many recent graduates are experiencing the same, even now in 2025, although the graduate
Yes,
route visa gives them an option to work 2 years at the moment after graduation, still they face this frustration. So
absolutely.
And I mean, what do you think looking back? I was working with international students at that time, and it was very frustrating. But people were still getting jobs, people were still getting sponsored. But I
Yeah.
think it was the more organized students, the more focused students, the ones that were savvy enough to use their career service to connect to people, and also their enterprise teams, which I think enterprise at that time was in development at universities. But what key skills do you think you really need to be successful as an international
Um,
student?
So basically, I'll answer that question with a simple example. So earlier this week, I was at one of the top business schools in the country, uh, and I was talking to students there. I was talking to the people there, etc. And the one thing that kind of struck me was that and I was talking to a student when the student was complaining about the situation, especially with the immigration white paper and everything being so negative. And every time I open LinkedIn, I just see another student ranting on it. I sympathize with them. Look, I'll be honest, I was in that space at one time. But the reality is that it's always been tough. It's always been tough as an international student to get a job in the UK. It's never been easy. The difference has been that expectations earlier were much lesser, and after the post study work visa, the expectations have been increased. In fact, it's not expectations, it's mis-selling of the whole education industry in the UK has taken place. You have a lot of students reading things, going to social media platforms, getting mis-sold that, oh, when you come to the UK, you're not paying 20 or 30,000 pounds for your education, but rather you're paying for your settlement and to get a job. It's like a guarantee. No one guarantees anyone in the UK when it comes to education, right? You're paying for your degree. So, what has happened is the frustration is more likely coming out of those expectations not being met. Earlier, when there was no post study work visa, there was no expectation. My friends and I, even though we were desperate, we were working hard, we knew that we're coming in and we're paying the high fees for that education. And we knew it's going to be near to impossible to get the right job. So everyone went to class, got a good degree, and then said, you know what, we'll try. If it's not, then we go back home. Now what has happened is that you're coming in, yes, you have a lot of wonderful students going and getting good grades and everything, but because you have that expectation in your head that you're going to get a job and you're disappointed, that frustration is coming up. That being said, the job search market is competitive across the board. We're facing multiple headwinds. I don't like to use the word AI too much because I think it's overused and abused. But the reality is that yes, technology is advancing at a rapid pace, where a lot of people, in place of hiring staff, are using AI to cut down on headcount. That is a fundamental problem, especially in larger companies. The second problem is the economy, right? We're going through a area of war, economic slowdown, a lot of changes taking place politically in larger economies like the United States, etc. Uh, the third is the budget. Uh, look, it is impacting because the country needs to shore up their tax revenue, so they are basically reducing and they're reducing or they're increasing the tax burden on companies, whether it's the change in national insurance, taxes, all of those kind of stuff, which also impacts in the visa fees and all of that kind of stuff, which has gone up and which is going to go up based on the immigration white paper as well. And finally, the fact that look, there are more people in the job search market searching for jobs than there are jobs available. That's the basic bottom line. Here international students are not just competing with themselves or their peers, but also with local students. In such a situation where there is more demand for jobs than less supply of jobs, you're always going to find that the brightest and the best are the ones that get it. So if you want to be successful, just going to uni, getting a good grade, doing your part-time jobs, and doing the bare minimum is not going to cut it. You have to go above and beyond. And there are a lot of international students who do get the right jobs, but I've been in this industry long enough to see that when you talk to a student for the first or the second time, you exactly know if they're going to get it or not. And those students are the ones who are interacting with the career services, are focusing less on their part-time gigs. A lot of one of the pet peeves I have is a lot of students not going to university and only focusing on cash in hand jobs and part-time jobs to sustain themselves. That's not going to give you a job, because a lot of them don't learn anything. There are no skill sets, interpersonal skills, networking skills, English language skills. There's so many international students who cannot string a line of English together. Those skills are missing. So if you're an international student, apart from the basics, and these are the basics, you have to go above and beyond, grow your certifications, your skill sets, work experience, hustle. Spend more time on LinkedIn than you do on Instagram. That'll be my line to kind of share.
And you mentioned the dreaded white paper. I guess,
Yes.
we've had a lot of really stressed out students, current students, and I'm
Yes.
about to start working with pre arrival things, events and such like. But what do you think moving forward? We've got to give people an idea of what they can do if it is shortened. What would your advice to what would your advice be?
So the good part is they've not got rid of it. It's shortened. There was a lot of talk that they want to get rid of it. And they've not kind of done any sort of requirements where you have to get a graduate level job. You can do anything even for 18 months, even if they go through with the proposal. So, look, yes, you think it's shorter by 6 months, which is a big deal. I don't think so. I still think that it's not just 18 months that students have. Funnily enough, after you finish your course, you have 4 months on your student visa, which is the amount of time it takes to pass your degree and get your certification and all that kind of stuff, and then apply for the post study work visa. So technically, it's not 18. You still have a good 20 to 23 months, between you finishing your course and your post study work visa ending. That's almost 2 years. You can do a lot in 2 years, honestly speaking. You can hustle your way, you can network with people, you can do so many you can get work experience. A lot of the time students are kind of stuck up on, and I'm not advocating non-paid work, but what I'm trying to say is, look, when when people don't know, companies don't know what you can deliver, you might want to give your skill set as a trial to the companies, and then say, look, if you like what I've done and supported you, can we work on an internship and then convert to a job, etc. You don't have to go in with the mindset that I need to get 40 grand. If you're going to go with that mindset, you're going to have lesser number of roles. But if you can prove that you're worth 40 grand, it's going to be much more easier for you to convince them.
So, would you recommend contacting sort of smaller businesses? Because I think when I talk with international students, they'll say,
Absolutely.
"I want the big name," and you go, "But the flexibility of a smaller company,
Absolutely.
the chance to do
So
more."
So I always follow a 3-to-1 methodology. It's three applications for startups, two applications for mid-level companies, and one application for a large company. And the reason why I follow that is the large company applications are so much longer compared to a mid-level company and a small skills company. So the amount of time it takes to apply for a startup for three applications is equal to the amount of time it takes to apply for two mid-sized companies and one large-scale company. So as an international student, do your own research, make a list of small scale, medium scale, and large scale companies, and follow the 3-to-1 approach. That way, you're spreading your wings and you're seeing what works.
I think that's brilliant advice.
It is really brilliant advice. But Dhruv, I'm very interested how or what will you tell our students and recent graduates to use in their these negotiation conversations, because it's not just promoting your skills, your qualifications, everything you bring, but there's a lot of discussions around, okay, I'm still on a graduate visa, but give me an opportunity to showcase what I can do. How can they do that?
So the first thing is that students themselves need to understand the difference between the graduate route visa, the skilled worker visa, and what the company needs to do to sponsor them. I think first is having a clear understanding on what can be done in each of these visas, the do's and don'ts, and how to go from one to the other. Point number one. Point number two is, if someone doesn't want to keep you on and they've already made up their mind, nothing you do is going to change that. And I'm going to be brutally honest, right? So it's better for the student to lay their cards and be honest and transparent and saying, take, look, option number one, sponsor me right away, easiest. If the company says no, Tell them option number two, take me on the graduate route visa, try me out. If you like me, sponsor me after. If the company says great, awesome. If the company says no, don't waste your time, move on. Because they've already made up their mind, they don't want to kick you on. You're just going to prolong your agony and their frustration by trying to stretch out the conversations. So it's just easier that way.
Thank you. That's a good one. Thank you.
And I guess my question would be, if you're in that position, would you advise them to say, okay, well, I can look around within the UK, but also what about third countries? Obviously
So
you've got
I
a lot of resources on Student
ab-
Circus.
absolutely. One of the things that I always tell students is, and I've seen this more often than not, international students are putting all the eggs in one basket, which is the UK. I'm talking to a lot of students, and this goes back to the very first point that I said, which was expectations. I've had students coming to me in panic, writing to me saying that I've taken a loan, my family's mortgaged their property for me to come and study here. I have no backup option. And the first thing I have to tell them is that is wrong. If you've taken that decision without having a backup option, it's on you, it's not on anyone else. You can't blame the government, you can't blame anyone. Yes, it's a frustration, but you have to have a backup plan. What's plan A? What's plan B? What's plan C? Your plan A and priority can be the UK. Your plan B can either be going back to your home countries or going to a third country. So you can swap that between plan B and plan C. Now, when we look at a lot of home countries, a lot of international students, like I'm Indian, right? So I'm from India, and a lot of international students in the UK, a large proportion are from India. And one of the mindsets that Indian students have, and this is not something that I'm just saying out of thin air, this is something that another very large institution told me, that when they did a survey, a lot of Indian students told them that there are no jobs in India. I am hiring in India. I'm not finding the right people.
Why
The
aren't
the
you hiring
diff
in UK?
Uh, I wish universities paid me so much that I could pay 40, 50 grand.
Don't we
Shiv knows,
all?
I get to
Shiv,
challenge you on this one.
Shiv knows how difficult the conversations were when it came to pricing with Warwick. So unfortunately, I would love to get an extra zero in my contract and spend a large part of that on hiring in the UK. But jokes aside, the fact is that everyone should have a plan B and a plan C in place. There are a lot of roles in a lot of different countries. What is happening is that a lot of international students have closed their mind because they don't want to be there. Now, yes, you don't want to be there. That's your personal perspective, but it doesn't mean that there are no jobs. There are jobs. Yes, expectations are again different, right? Because the basic salary that a graduate gets in the UK is 20 grand. The basic salary that you might get in your home country is equivalent to 5 grand. That's great based on your home country standard and standard of living and cost of living, but not based on UK standard. So you can't compare apples to oranges. You have to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. So the whole point is, there are jobs available in different parts of the world. As an international student, having a plan A, having a plan B, and having a plan C should be kept in mind. So on Student Circus, students can find jobs, internships for graduate level jobs, and up to 5 to 7 years of work in their home countries. We have jobs in 32 home country markets covering 50 to 70 nationalities, because you have free movement of people in Europe, etc. So again, if you're a student from one of the top countries that is sending students to Warwick, you will most likely find jobs and internships back in your home country on the Student Circus platform. But to give you a further option, we have country guides as well, and our country guides are designed to give you information and guidance about a particular country's graduate job market, whether it's your home country or it's a third country. So, if you're a student coming from Southeast Asia and wanting to work in the Middle East, great. Understand more about the Middle Eastern market, job market there, and then apply for jobs, rather than just thinking, oh, you know what? I love tax-free money. I love the sunshine in Dubai. I love eating and enjoying my time on the beach, but do you even know how the job search market works? So our aim is, we're giving you all the resources. Obviously, at the end of the day, you need to work on making the most of each of them, and getting the right jobs.
I think that's really good advice. Research, research, research. I mean, we could talk to you all day, but I just want to ask you one last question. What
Sure.
would you tell your 21, 24-year-old self? What advice would you give?
Okay, so the first thing I would give is start early, way earlier. So right from the time you landed. I guilty as charged. For the first 3-4 months, I was so enamored by the beauty that the UK education system, living in the UK and everything else around you gives, that you're totally defocused, and by the time you start focusing, it's too late. So start early. The second advice that I would for sure give is make the most of the career services and the resources. I am telling you now, after working with universities across the UK, with so many of them, I know how much blood, sweat, and tears the careers consultants like yourselves put to support students. And it just breaks my heart to see that when I'm talking to students, the first thing they come and do is they complain about not being helped. And when you ask them why, and you ask them if they visit the career services, most of them say yes or no. And they say, yes, but I know about them. I didn't visit them. I didn't take their support, or it wasn't enough and stuff like that. And when you start probing them, you realize that they've not even attended any session, they've not done much. So again, make the most of all the resources. I always kind of make it a joke in my presentations to go and say, it's free, you've already paid for it, so make the most of it. Because a lot of international students, unfortunately, are being targeted by a lot of scammers around, and saying that, you know what, pay us and we'll get you jobs and visas. You don't need to pay anyone in the UK for jobs and visas. And I know companies trying and going and saying, pay us a couple of quid a month to access jobs. You don't need to pay anyone. Your university is giving you access to all of that stuff. It's all free. All that you need to do is spend less time on Instagram and more time on LinkedIn and more time on your job search, and you should be fine.
Thank you for saying that, because that's the biggest bugbear. We get people say, come to us, pay us £500, we'll write you a CV. And you go, come to us, go to a webinar, or come to an in-person event. We'll show you how to do a UK CV. And look, there's all these people who will check it. Not a penny.
Yeah.
I think that's what we just need to highlight more and more than anything else, to support students. There's a lot of misinformation in the market.
Definitely. And thank you for highlighting that, because I think people think we're constantly on our team's channels sending out messages. We're aware there's this scam, we're aware of that scam. So yeah, and I know other universities are doing the same. But it's been a real pleasure talking today. Thank you for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pleasure talking to you.
And I look forward to working. Absolutely. And I look forward to working with both of you over the next many years to support your student.
Oh, definitely. We'll be annoying you for a lot longer.
Looking forward to it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Lovely talking to you. Have a good rest of the week. Bye-bye, Dhruv.
Bye-bye. Bye.